Welcome into Missing the Point, everybody. We're here talking about how bummed we are about the Celtics, but we're not going to talk about that during the show because it's depressing and makes everybody sad. And I think we'd be better served talking about the NFL because it's been a pretty crazy season, Joe. I mean, of
Yeah,
all things, you beat me in fantasy football yesterday. Congratulations on your place in the final.
thank you very much.
I'm convinced I would have won had my roster not been beaten up, but we don't make excuses around here. We just get results. So congratulations on your win. Fuck you. And I'm really
Sure.
glad I'm really glad one of us is still in it to try to win. Then again, if we keep winning our own fantasy football league, it might get suspect.
Sure, because Craig won last year.
Me and Craig
I'm
played each other in the final last year, which
That's
is
right.
already like, maybe we're doing backdoor deals. But we're
That
not
was
we're
that
not
was the
that we're
one you
not
were
that smart.
that was the one you were worried about because I was up by like 30 or something, but then the Bills came in week 17. I was like, and you thought it was over, and I was like, I don't think so. No, Patriots don't have it this year. And then Josh Allen continued to royally fuck the Patriots that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Jacoby Myers caught a pointless pass in the fourth quarter, won me $500.
Yeah, I couldn't even start a full team against Joe because everybody on my team had COVID. Which is my fault. I took them all out, and we all when we weren't wearing masks. And about half of them weren't even vaccinated. I didn't want to ask, because it's a touchy subject.
Yeah.
But also, on the subject of COVID, I heard Omicron's a little pussy variant. I'm not even scared of it. So fucking bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lick my face. I don't give a shit. I'm done. You guys know I was Captain fucking COVID. Fucking wear your mask. Like, get us out of. I'm finished. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm vaccinated. Two vaxes and a boost. If you don't want to get vaccinated and you want to die choking on a ventilator, that's your fucking prerogative. I don't give a shit anymore. We're moving on. We're moving on from the whole COVID thing. I want my life back. On that note,
coming in firing here. Today.
On that note, it fucked up my fantasy football game. But so it still finds ways to butt fuck me from time to time, and not in the way that I like. And I feel like maybe do you want to just like hit it hard with the power rankings that Bobby just sent over, and we can just sort of go from there? Since
I think we should. I think that's a good way to start the discussion because there was just so much this week that happened that it was just and talk about COVID screwing up your fantasy team. I mean, I've been lucky in two of my three fantasy leagues. I am in the championship, and the other one I didn't make the playoffs. So
that was a pretty humble brag right there, Joe.
Yeah, just a humble brag. At least I'm playing Alex in our league, so at least there's a non-member of MTP who's in the championship.
Solid team, though. I was scared to come up against them. You want to go from 10 to 1 because it's boring to start with the best one.
Yeah, let's do that. But let's talk about both of his number 10s. Let's talk about 10 and 11 because I think they're both pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's weird that I mean, again, this has been a weird season, but it's just fucking weird that the Cardinals have dropped all the way to 10 and they were 1 for a few weeks, like, running straight through. I mean, I get that they haven't had a lot of luck with injuries this season. And they've been
lost James Conner this week.
Yeah. And they were even kind of a weird team when they were winning. But they were sort of a great representation of this season as a whole for a while there because they were such a weird team to watch. He told us we could decide what number 10 was, either the Colts or the Cardinals. I think it's the Colts personally, because I honestly think they're a little underrated. I know you were talking in the chat today about their issues at quarterback with what's his knuckles going. Was it COVID?
Wentz going down with COVID. Yeah.
Is it COVID? Yeah. He would get COVID. He fucking would get COVID. He's such an idiot. But I mean, he's been playing well, and I feel like the Colts are a good team. I feel like they have a sneaky like level of being good at football from time to time. Like, they'll beat teams you don't expect them to beat. They'll play better than you expect them to play, even though you don't really know who the fuck half their players are. But yeah, I would, if it were up to me, I'd slot them in at 10.
I agree
above the Cardinals, especially since they beat the Cardinals. So like, it makes sense. You know what I mean?
A lot of these teams in this league this year are really weird. Like I look at a team outside the top 10, like the Steelers, and wonder how they're a 500 team just watching them. And then you watch the Cardinals and you see their blatant flaws, and you watch the Colts and you see their blatant flaws, but then, you see them run all over the Patriots like they did. And then you look at the Patriots and you see the way they played in a 7-game win streak. And then they come out and played flat against Indy and Buffalo. And it's just,
those are two good teams though. I mean,
sure.
I feel like the Patriots are definitely super weird. If you want to just skip to them, because I'm sure you're champion.
Well, no, not necessarily. I just mean this is an overarching thing in the NFL this year that it just seems like
nobody's good.
Nobody's great, and the Packers are probably at the top, but we'll get to them shortly. But they're really the only team that kind of stands out that is dangerous, because they're really good everywhere. And they're tough to beat. But with number 10, I agree with you on the Colts. I think the Cardinals might be a year or two away still. I really like their offense. I like Kyler Murray. I like Cliff Kingsbury, former New England Patriot. But Colts at 10.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Moving on, number 9, the Titans. They're still hanging around
Barely.
after the best running back in the NFL goes down. It kind of goes to show, like, if he didn't go down, like, what would they have been made of going into the playoffs? I think they would have looked like a really solid outfit. It's pretty disappointing that he got that season-ending injury, but it is another reason you can't rely on a running back, because they get hit so much. It's like they get hit every time they touch the ball. They're going down at some point. And I think it's tough to keep him healthy. It's the reason why they have them retire at 26. Like there's the freaks of nature out there, like Adrian Peterson, who plays until he's a million. But it's tough to rely. I mean, you don't say no. You don't turn your nose up at a quality running back like that. But I mean, look at the Giants right now with Saquon. Like he cannot put a real season together. And I think relying on that, and like, again, a lot of times, like, there's running backs are like point guards in basketball. There's shitloads of them. There's so many of them. And I just like when the Steelers didn't want to pay Le'Veon Bell, I full on agreed with that, because it's just like, do we really want to like pay a guy $1 million a day to come and be our running back, when then they get James Conner and he's just as good. Like he has a great season right after that. And it's like, no, let's not rely. I don't agree with the idea of building your team around a running back. And I think that the Titans sort of fell victim to that trope this season. But yeah, I mean, credit to them for hanging around. They're not a bad outfit. They have a pretty solid defense, a good O-line. I won't say that their quarterback's great, but they've won some games. They've made some shit happen. So I mean,
he's better than Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer. Like he could win you a Super Bowl. Like with the coaching that he had.
We always reference those guys as Super Bowl winners, and it's like, they don't, maybe, but they don't have the kind of defense like that Ravens team had. You know what I mean? It's like,
no, they're definitely
you have to have something really special on the other side of the ball, or elsewhere. Maybe a running back. I don't know.
I also thought I was doing a show with Dave, not Mike, because you just mentioned you can't win with when you're point guard or your running back.
That was my take originally that Mike stole. So
was it? You know what? I always knew he was
he's a filthy thief. Is what he is.
He is a thief.
The Bengals are funny. They're at number 8. They're funny. Joe Burrow's kind of funny.
Remember when I had Zach Taylor as the first head coach out last year?
Yeah.
And speaking of bad takes, Craig, that we can put into a show later, that was a bad take, because this Bengals team is pretty good. Like, if I would have loved to see what happened if Joe Burrow stayed healthy last year, but now that he has Jamar Chase this year, I mean, the guy just threw for 525 and 4 touchdowns this week. And I mean, I don't know if that's a sign of things to come, but you don't just see
those, the Ravens, dude. He was running that score up too.
And you don't see those games happen all the time from just schlubs off the street, right? Like,
he's good.
He's a good quarterback, and he's got a good team around him. And Zach Taylor is a better coach than I had given him credit for. They're a funny team, though. I mean, they could very easily go out, and I think they can still win the North. So.
We'll it's still up for grabs, because they were both 8-6 coming into that game, right? So the Steelers are out.
The Steelers are 7-7-1 now.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's better than I thought that they were.
That's what I'm saying. They're just so bad. Watching Roethlisberger play quarterback, it's painful because he can't move, and everybody on his team is more concerned about celebrating. So
dude,
the Bengals are 9.
I mean, listen, with a team, we talked about this just to do a little Steelers aside briefly, like we talked about this in the chat. I don't necessarily think it was Chase Claypool's fault that they lost because, like, don't get yourself in that situation in the first place by getting sparked in the fucking first half, and B, he didn't slow it down that much, and they already weren't managing the clock super well, and like they still had a chance to make a play at the end of the game to win, but. I mean, I'm not even a Steelers fan, and that boiled my blood. Like, I was like, dude, what are you doing? And then they did it again this week. I saw a highlight. I refused to watch. I refuse to watch Steelers games anymore because it's fucking painful.
How does that work when your significant other is a Steelers fan?
I was super supportive of them, as you know, and then they cheated to beat the Bears this season, and now we're in a fight pretty much all the time about it. So if I have like one too many beers, I'll start just being like, what's it like to support a team that just fucking cheats to win?
Well, you know what? I'm glad you have her in the house so you don't take that out on me, Mike, Ray, and Craig.
But then the fucking that cornerback was doing it when they were getting fucking lit up. They were down like 25-0 or whatever it was. Yeah, and he makes one bust up play in the corner of the end zone, and he's like taunting and it's like, dude, that guy's got to get control of his locker room, man. They've always been leaky. They've always been like little fucking piss ants all over the fucking field. It's just like, you got to start drafting for character, and build yourself a solid foundation, and don't sweep sexual assault allegations under the rug so much. And like, maybe we can have a culture there. Cause like, a lot of talent, like we talk about, shitload of talent. A lot of guys I really like watching too, I really like Claypool. I really like Johnson. I really like basically, and they're also always exciting because they're like, who'd they draft this year? He's going to be good. You know what I mean? Like
they draft well.
But like, I'm sick of watching Ben Roethlisberger's corpse get like dragged out onto the field every week, and they need to blow that up. They need to go make some moves, and they need to I think they need a new coach.
I see this so much on forums, online, and on Facebook and other social media platforms where people say, "Oh, the Lions are so bad. Why doesn't the NFL make them sell the team or move them?" And my response is always, as long as the Ford family is any part owner of the Detroit Lions, Detroit will not lose a team. They won't change the name. They won't sell the team. They won't move them because who's one of the biggest sponsors in the NFL? It's Ford. So
does that mean that the U.S. government technically owns the Detroit Lions because they had to get bailed out?
Yeah, I mean,
wait, did Ford take a bailout? I can't remember, but anyway,
actually, I think they were one of the companies that didn't. I could be wrong, but back to the Steelers. And the point with that little rant was that the Steelers will basically run a coach into the ground until they retire or die. That's just the way the Steelers are. They don't like to change head coaches, so they're not going to. But there's such a problem. When did Tomlin come in? 06? Was 06 his first year?
Yeah, because what's his name? Cowher won and then retired, right?
Right. So he came. So Tomlin's first year was 2007. So that's a pretty good run. I mean, he did well, but you're right. They're leaky. They draft well, but they don't draft for character. And you get these guys that, do these things. And you're right about Claypool. But I think my bigger issue with Claypool was when the offensive lineman basically pulled him off the ground and was like, "Get back to the line," and then they spiked the ball and he goes off on the right guard. Like, what do you do? That you're on the field. Don't throw a tantrum on the field.
You're on national television.
You're on national television.
Fucking Brussels sprout.
Yeah, you're driving downfield. You're attempting to win a game in the NFL, and you're going off on your right guard for pulling you off the ground when you were celebrating a first down catch with the clock running with 26 seconds.
Yeah, because he had a little fucking clock awareness.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's another big thing in the NFL is that a lot of coaches don't know how to manage the clock. And Mike Tomlin is terrible, but so was Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher was awful. You can always count on a few coaches not to know how to manage the clock. Sean McDermott is actually one of them as well. But McDermott, Reed, Tomlin, Arians is fine, but I think that's more Tom Brady right now. He kind of used to stink too. So I mean, I think that's an epidemic within the
Arians
NFL.
doesn't coach that team.
No, you're right. You're right. Did you see today that the
figurehead? He's the Queen Elizabeth of the NFL.
Yeah, right. When we're recording this on December 28th, that the Jacksonville Jaguars not only want to talk to Kellen Moore of the Dallas Cowboys, but they also want to talk to Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich of the Buccaneers. So that's going to be interesting.
Byron Leftwich used to play in Jacksonville, right?
Yes, he did. So that would actually be sense. Yeah, that would actually be an interesting hire. I don't know if he's ready to be a head coach, but everybody that's around him says that he's brilliant. So I like Byron Leftwich.
I'll tell you what, back to the power rankings, it's funny how insignificant the Bengals are as a franchise, because when you get to the Bengals in the power rankings, it becomes a 10-minute conversation about the Steelers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're talking about the teams that they play, not about them.
Yeah, I mean, they're not bad. I mean, I do kind of think Joe Burrow's good, and I kind of like his attitude. It's like what the Browns thought they were getting with Brady Quinn. But I think he's legitimate. Or Brady Quinn. Throwback.
Way to go.
Remember that guy?
Notre Dame quarterbacks from 15 years ago.
But he was also a first-round pick by the Browns, so it makes sense. He obviously also lives rent-free in my mind. No, what's his name? Fucking Baker Mayfield. It's what they thought they were getting with Baker Mayfield, so I think that makes me happy because I like to see the Browns do badly. All right, well, here we are, the moment of truth, number 7 with a bullet, the New England Patriots. Joe, what the fuck is happening over there? I mean, is it because maybe it's difficult to not ever throw the ball and win games?
You know what? It's so interesting you say that, because this week against Buffalo at home was probably the worst accuracy game Mac Jones has had in his very short career. He did not look good. Buffalo was all over him. The problem is that they played Buffalo in Buffalo and won the way they did before they played them at home. Because Sean McDermott has a hair across his ass when it comes to Bill Belichick. And they used every single thing from that week that leading up to the game in Buffalo all the way up until now as bulletin board material to go out and smoke the Patriots. And it was almost like, I mean, you couldn't have scripted it any better. It was almost written in stone that it was going to happen that way.
Yeah, right off the bat.
Came out flat.
Yeah, right off the bat, you knew. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised the score was as close as it was, because if you actually watch that game, it was the Patriots were plugging away. They were trying to stay in the game the whole time, but yeah, no, it was a foregone conclusion pretty much from the start.
And Josh Allen torched him without his second and third receivers. Cole Beasley was out. Isaiah McKenzie is a kick returner. He's like, I mean, he's Gunnar Olszewski for those of you Patriots fans, but he's almost better. He's a good receiver, and he beat Miles Bryant on drag routes and in routes all day. Miles Bryant just couldn't keep up with him. If you saw number 19 catch the ball, 41 in blue, wasn't far behind him, and that was disappointing. I mean, the one nice thing the Patriots did was they did start to fight back again in the second half, but the problem is that they don't play well when they're playing from behind. They stopped the run up the middle. Singletary and even Allen couldn't get anything going up the middle, so they had to go to the outside. Patriots had to do the same thing. That Buffalo defense, though, man, that they are really good. They are really good, and because Bobby has them at 6, I think Bobby has the Bills too low in the power rankings.
Is that just because they beat your team, though?
No, because I said,
no, they're amazing. They beat the Patriots.
Right. Well, I said in the preseason show that I think Buffalo's a wagon, and I think that they hit their low point a few weeks ago, and I think they had a tough time against New England at home and against Tampa on the road. And then, I think they're hitting their stride right now, and I think that's dangerous for the rest of the league.
How come N'Keal Harry touched the ball so much? He sucks. Give it to the other guy, Aguilar. He's better.
Well, Aguilar didn't play because he was out with COVID. Craig, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, he was out the entire week. Didn't practice, didn't do nothing.
Well, he played in the game.
No, he was out. Kendrick Bourne played in the game, who had also been out.
Because I would not hand the ball to N'Keal Harry ever again.
N'Keal Harry, the way they need to. So here's the problem. Bill Belichick loves him because he was a first-round pick, so he's never going to get rid of him. So what he tried to do is he tried to use N'Keal Harry the same way he uses Nelson Aguilar. N'Keal Harry isn't Nelson Aguilar, and Nelson Aguilar isn't even all that great either. But
yeah, I guess. I mean,
but he threw. The problem was on two different occasions they threw to Harry and then went back to him again to try and let him redeem himself. And the first time it was a pick, and Mac Jones was pissed because you knew he didn't want to go there, but it was his only read.
Yeah, but don't they look so much better when they're like Hunter Henry barely saw any of the ball too. Like he was going to him, but I get it. I get that his options were limited, but don't they look so much better when they do those kind of like jumbo tight end sets? They try to establish a little bit better. They try to just get like short yardage over the middle of their tight ends. Like that's what the Patriots always look like to me when they're successful. I get that they have no fucking backfield right now too. Like I understand that. And it's like tough to run the ball in that scheme as much as they want to, but I mean, I don't know, man. Like that N'Keal Harry guy is not good at football. So I'm just like curious as to why he gets so many looks, so many looks.
Did you see the article in the USA Today with Troy Brown? Troy Brown.
No, I didn't wake up at a fucking Holiday Inn Express today, so my USA Today wasn't waiting for me. I understand the internet exists. Sorry, I'm just fucking with you.
I know.
What does it say? What did it say?
Troy Brown was interviewed by the USA Today and said, just now that N'Keal Harry is finally working to get his fundamentals where they need to be. I'm glad that's happening in year 3 instead of year 1 or anything.
Or a year fucking Pop Warner. What do you mean getting your fundamentals where they need to be?
He's got a big head. And so to your 2 tight end jumbo set comment, that is exactly what Josh McDaniels wants to do. What did he do when he first came into the
Jonnu Smith didn't see the ball at all, did he?
No, Jonnu Smith didn't see the ball. Hunter Henry barely saw the ball. And I mean, that was his bread and butter when he first came to the Patriots as the OC way back when. It was Gronk and it was Hernandez. So that's what they wanted to do with Henry and Smith. And they cannot do that. But how do you heal the N'Keal Harry issue? Keep putting him out there in running formations, but have him put on 15 pounds and line him up as a tight end. Stop putting him at wide receiver. Stop making him think he's going to catch the ball.
I think it might be a brain issue, not a skills issue.
Oh, it definitely is. He comes running out of that tunnel every Sunday like he's, king shit, and he can't catch.
Because I don't mind Aguilar. I think he's a good player.
No, I think Aguilar
in that role too. I think it's a little. Yeah, well, that's fixable though. You can just you can work on your hands. I feel like, and I think
he fixed it when he went to the Raiders. After he left, when he was with the Eagles, he couldn't catch the football. He went to the Raiders. He learned how to catch the football. Now he's coming here, and he's doing pretty well. He doesn't have a lot of drops this year, but 3 years ago, he led the NFL in drops with the Eagles, and it was bad. And it was really bad. And he redeemed himself when he went to.
It's also it's tough too because I feel like there's a version of the Patriots that play that exact game, but don't get absolutely shellacked by the Bills offense. Like your game plan was sort of stayed consistent, it's just that the defense didn't really make the plays that they usually make. And they didn't stifle. Cause if you look at the box score, it's I don't know if you guys scored in the first quarter, but I think it was then it's touchdown, touchdown, touch. It's that constant, trudging up the hill, trying to stay close in the game. And I think that there's, that's still the same game plan that you guys have been winning, that you guys once was it 6 games in a row or 7 games in a row with. And it's that's, I think that you can still go into the locker room and be all right, well, look, here's what we did well, and here's what we did well in other games. And we can still implement this if we just improve in these areas and we get our guys healthy, I know McCourty played. He didn't play very well. I think, it's that's the thing. It's when your best defensive player isn't making the plays he usually makes when you're coming up against an offense with a lot of weapons. I mean, I know that they were missing a couple guys at wide receiver, but they still had Stephon fucking Diggs, and Josh Allen.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
And he played great. And he was just a problem the whole day. I know he only had 1 touchdown, but he was just a problem the whole day. And you're looking at a Josh Allen that he was basically able to do whatever he wanted for the whole game. Mm-hmm. So it's
he looked like an NFL MVP on Sunday.
Yeah. And I also think that the Patriots have a sort of they've always had that sort of bend, don't break defense. And I think part of that is you got to stifle teams early. You got to frustrate them early. You got to confuse the looks early. And I just think that ship sailed really quickly, and I think then the game got away from them, and they did try to claw back, like they had a fight. You know, I think that there's a lot of doom and gloom when the Patriots lose in our chat, and I just think it's like, I don't know, you're still going to the playoffs, you know, like I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Hey, most likely. I mean, there is a way that they miss or become the 7th seed. I mean, Miami played a really banged up Saints team on Monday Night Football this week, but that Miami team looks good. Like, all right, the Patriots should go out and beat the Jaguars in week 17, but in week 18, they got their work cut out for them in South Florida. I mean, if the Patriots, if the Dolphins win out, including beating the Patriots, and the Bills win out, the Bills
will win out because the Bills have to play the Falcons and the Jets. So the Bills
will win
their next two
games. But the Bills will win the East, and the Dolphins would finish second, and the Patriots would be in third, looking up, and maybe still get into the playoffs at 10-7.
Be a wild card at that point.
Yeah. Well, they're the number 6 seed right now, going into week 17.
Fucking weird, like to 10-6. Like, I mean, that's pretty, 10-6, or I guess it would be
9-6 right now.
It's 9-6 right now. So you're saying they could be 11-6.
They could be 11-6. If they go 11-6, they're going to finish second in the East, and they'll be. They can still win. They can still win, but Atlanta or the Jets has to beat Buffalo, which probably.
But then it's the New England Patriots in the playoffs, and
sure. You just got to get to the dance, right? So, but the Dolphins can still win the East, and they can still finish second above the Patriots, and there's a path that could happen. So the Patriots can finish 11-6, 10-7, 9-8, but I don't think Jacksonville's just a mess. I mean, they just lost James Robinson this week to a torn Achilles.
Yeah, I mean, they're a mess. Period. Though they don't know anybody. They're terrible. On that note, I was just started looking up to go on to the next thing, and I actually do agree with you. I think the Bills are better than the Rams.
I think they're better than.
I don't think the Rams are that good. I think that they're like devastated by injuries right now, and I think they're going to have a tough time closing out their season. I know that their like RB1 is down. I know because he's on my fucking fantasy team. Henderson Jr. He got COVID. I don't know what the rules are now. I don't know when you get to come back because the CDC
just
like 5 days is fine.
I
have no idea. So like we're just making it up as we go along. So like maybe he plays next week. I don't know. But the Rams again, like, and I've been saying this all year. It's like Matt Stafford's their QB, and you can just now the teams that play them a lot. It used to be the NFC North and the NFC in general. But now it's teams have figured out that you just got to ruffle his feathers a little bit, just like we did. And you can, kind of stifle them and you can beat that team. I think that they're talented all over the field, but they're weirdly similar to the Bills. Like they have a kind of a weirdly similar setup, like in the skill positions. But I mean, I don't trust either of them to win a championship, to be quite honest with you. But if I gone to my head, I had to pick one, I would probably put the Bills over the Rams.
I think their head coaches, the Bills and Rams, I think their head coaches are a little, I don't want to say weak, but I want to say weak-minded. I think like you just said, if you can ruffle their feathers, because you're right, their makeups have, Tyler Higbee equals Dawson Knox. That's a pretty good comp. Cooper Kupp equals Stephon Diggs. That's a pretty good comp. The running backs are similar, right? Like neither team really has a running game, but they can run. Their quarterbacks can move when needed. Josh Allen is a much better runner than Matt Stafford. Mike kind of goes back and forth because it's so funny. A few weeks ago, Mike was like, "Oh, Matt Stafford," basically, for lack of a better term, and I'm slightly putting words in his mouth because he wasn't this harsh, but basically he was saying Matt Stafford was overrated, even though in the offseason he wanted Matt Stafford in New England.
He is fucking overrated though.
But he is. And I think with the team that they have there, I think they're volatile. I think they could explode at any moment. There's a lot of big personalities in a small space. And I agree with you that the Bills and the Rams, I think in Bobby's top 5, there's only 3 teams that could win the Super Bowl. And then there's the Rams, the Bills, and the Cowboys. And I think the Rams and Bills are just, like you just said, they have the talent, they have the ability to get there, but unless they play each other, neither one of them is going to win a Super Bowl this year.
I don't know, man. The Cowboys, I like the Cowboys. I think that they look really good.
So do you want to talk about the Bucs before we talk, or the Cowboys before we talk about the Bucs?
Well, I mean, the Bucs are the Bucs, right? It's like, okay, it's Tom Brady. Like, chances are, he can win you a fucking Super Bowl. Like, he still looks at the same level he's always looked. I think that that, there was a little bit more mystery to that team last season, so they probably won a few more regular season games. But it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. Like, what do you think is going to happen? He's going to give they're going to give everybody they play a game, like a hell of a game. They match up poorly against the Packers. I think that I think the Packers, I'm hoping to Christ that they're not as good as everyone's saying.
I think they are.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, let's get there. On to the Bucks.
All right. So the Bucks are still pretty much the same team, right? That they were last year. I think
except Fournette's out right now, and that could be a big problem.
Sure, but I just think that the way that they're currently constituted, nobody would be surprised if Tom Brady made another playoff run and won another fucking Super Bowl. Nobody would be surprised.
We know that Tom Brady is comfortable throwing to any receiver on that sideline, including a Scotty Miller, which again saw it last year, and I've said it and I'll say it again. When he threw that pass with 8 seconds left in the first half against, I believe it was the Packers in the playoffs at halftime to Scotty Miller, I was like, done, it's over. Bucks win the Super Bowl. Because if Tom Brady's playing like that lights out, and he's working with what he's got, he'll be fine. Ronald Jones just need to hold on to
it's also just like it's a sort of a veteran mentality thing too.
Sure.
It's like Tom Brady's going to take you into the playoffs, and he's going to tell everybody on the team exactly the way they need to be thinking, exactly the things they need to be doing. Everybody needs to be in bed by 9:00. If you're on a fucking Tom Brady team, you need to get a full night's sleep. No one's dicking around. You're not going to get any kind of crazy curveballs thrown at you from that perspective. And I just think, he could just, it's boring to say, but he could just win another one. It would just be like, cool, I guess Tom Brady's still the greatest of all time. I saw a crazy stat today that was like, I forget exactly what it was, but it was like he led the NFL in touchdowns the one year that they didn't win that he didn't win his division, but he still led the NFL in touchdowns. And the other year they didn't win the division was he tore his ACL that year. But that was even weird because you guys still went like 11-5 or whatever.
Missed the playoffs.
Someone's at the front door.
Someone's at my front door. I have a Ring doorbell now. It's very fancy. But he still won his division. It's like Tom Brady wins the division every single fucking time. And I don't know. He's likely just going to come in and do Tom Brady shit.
What you just said about Tom Brady is the problem that the Patriots have right now. Is that Tom Brady is in Tampa saying, hey, this is the way we're going to do it. This is the way it's going to happen. And that leadership, that personality, and that identity is no longer in the New England locker room.
Not having Tom Brady is a huge fucking problem for any.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But not having a personality is the bigger problem.
Well, you can't, it's like, to go back to the Patriots then in that case, it's like, I remember, and I know I always do this, but I remember when Liverpool's version of Tom Brady, Steven Gerrard, left the team, and it's like he was the captain and he handed off the captaincy to the new guy, Jordan Henderson. And what you kind of come up against is a lot of the fan base wants more of what they already had because of the success that that big personality brought. But Mac Jones isn't Tom Brady. He's never going to be Tom Brady. So you got to let him grow into who he is as a person. And I just do not think that the Patriots fan base is doing that right now. Everyone's just mad that he's not Tom Brady.
From within as well. I think the problem is some of it's coming from within. The veterans want a direction. They want an identity. They
rookie QBs are tough, dude. Rookie QBs are tough because it's the leadership position in the team. So it's tough to ask. It's big shoes to fill. Is all I'm saying. So him not being Tom Brady is definitely a problem. But like you were saying, he's in Tampa doing that same shit right now. It would be so much nicer for Mac Jones if Tom Brady had just retired. But the fact that he's like still out there doing Tom Brady shit it
was going to be hard for no matter who came in. It was for Cam Newton last year, right? Everybody was like, oh, but everybody knew who Cam Newton was. Like you weren't. The thing is if you watch the Patriots at all and you watch the NFL, you knew who Cam Newton was. But not everybody is. If we have anybody in Tuscaloosa listening, just hold on to your hats with this one. Not everyone watches Alabama football. Not everyone watches college football. I know, Craig. So they don't always know who you're getting out of college. So they just see what you see on the scouting report. And those are always spun to be positive, right? So the fan base is like the guy that gets picked, whatever. So you're right. He's never going to be Tom Brady, and that's unfortunate for him and for the fan base because but he is going to be Mac Jones, and I like a lot of his makeup, and I like a lot of what and who he is. He's just in a crapshoot position right now, and as a fan base, the Patriots fan base is tough on him. And
I can think of a lot of rookie QBs that would have folded before now.
Sure, absolutely.
In the situation that he's in, that's all I'm saying. But yeah, the Bucs could probably win the Super Bowl. I mean, most boring take of the day, but yeah, they probably could. So, yeah. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen. I'm sick of seeing that guy win fucking Super Bowls.
Same.
No quarterback is ever gonna win as 7 Super Bowls. It's just not gonna happen. So you could just fuck off, Tom. Like, that'd be great for all of us. That'd be really great. Watch him come back and coach and win like 4 more. I
don't know. Well, that's a different conversation for a different day. But
yeah. So as we were gonna move on to the Cowboys, I fucking like them, dude. They remind me so much of the 06 Bears. That defense is fun to watch. I've been saying it. I know it's fun to make fun of the Cowboys. I think because when we were all kids, like little kids, the Cowboys were really good. And I think that whole America's team thing pissed us all off a little bit. And I think that a lot of their players, when we were growing up, especially, were like really annoying. Like the Troy Aikmans of the world were like just very annoying players to watch. Also, they're in Texas, which is like, ugh. So it's like all this stuff that like kind of adds up, and they're blue, and I'm more of a red team guy. But all these little things add up, and you're just like, I fucking hate the Cowboys. Like, it's just by default. And obviously Jerry Jones being like a maniacal fucking despot, like who's clearly like saying racist shit behind closed doors, even though I can't prove that. But like, yeah, he's obviously awful. So all these things add up to hating the Cowboys, but that defense is so fun to watch. It really is. Like, they really do they play lights out every week. And like all it is, and I've been through this before, so I have a lot of sympathy for our good friend Bobby when he comes in to the chat talking about the Cowboys. The offense has to step their game up, and they need to they don't even need to win the game. Like, the offense is in a position where they don't even need to win the games for their team. They just need to not fucking fuck it up and not lose. And like, I think that's so dangerous in a year where nobody really has like the same identity that they had last year, in a year where everybody's like a little more rickety than they were last year, in a year where if they overcome the best team in their conference, they likely will play a less good team in the Super Bowl. I can see it. I can see the path. I can see, like, I don't want to fucking like get Bobby's hopes up here if he listens to this. But I can see it. They're good. They're good. I know the Washington football team are not good. I know that. But it doesn't matter if you're a good team or a bad team. If you get blown out as badly twice, as badly as they did by the Cowboys, like, that's the Cowboys are doing something right. And they're the funnest team to watch this year. He's far and away the funnest team to watch this year. And the Patriots are the least fun team to watch this year. For me, the Bears are the least fun team to watch.
I mean, well, that's because the Cowboys are kind of that. They mimic a lot of the teams we saw in the early 2000s, where they have the high flying offense that they can either chip away or they can they can take the lid off, right? And then they have that defense that is just absolutely relentless. I will say that Trayvon Diggs is not the defensive player of the year. He's actually not having a very good year for a guy that has 11 interceptions, but besides the point, Micah Parsons is without a doubt the best defensive pick in the draft. Without a doubt. The guy's an animal. He will go down if he can stay healthy. He will, after a great career, will go down as one of the best linebackers to ever play the game. If he can continue on with what he's doing. And he's got his head on straight and he understands what he's doing. And this is such a Mike McCarthy team, right? Like, this is what the Packers were in the early Aaron Rodgers days, after Mike Sherman left to go coach football. He retired and then went to coach football at Nauset High School in Orleans, Massachusetts, or Eastham, one of the two. Anyway, on the Cape, it's all the same. But such a Mike McCarthy team to put this kind of a defense together, and then have kind of a high flying offense to back it up. And he won a Super Bowl that way in Green Bay. Did he win 2? Does Rodgers have 1 or 2?
One.
He's 1.
Don't be giving Aaron Rodgers more Super Bowls.
You're right. I'm sorry. His ex-girlfriend just had a baby. But besides the point, with John Mulaney, also besides the point.
Hilarious.
Oh, he was dating Olivia Munn.
Yeah, and then they broke up while she was pregnant, and she had the baby like on December 27th or something.
What do you like? Read People magazine? How do you know?
I follow her on Instagram because she's hot, but
she's a thirst trap. Okay, gotcha. That may know that. Listen, that makes sense. I know the biographies of plenty of hot girls I don't care about.
So anyway,
I mean, listen, Micah Parsons has been the most fun defensive player for me to watch this year. I think the way he goes sideline to sideline reminds me of Urlacher. I just love it. I really think he's really good. He pressures the quarterback crazy good. Like he gets to that fucking QB. I can't wait to watch him for the next 10 years. He's going to be unbelievable. I think he should get defensive rookie of the year, of course. I mean, rookie of the year? Well, maybe. Defensive player of the year, it's a lock for me. I mean, you could make an argument for Myles Garrett. You can make an argument for TJ Watt. You can make an argument for those guys every year. But I just think the mere fact of Parsons being as fun as he's been and exploding onto the scene in the way that he has, and like you said, how clearly good he's going to be for the foreseeable future. You might as well just like do yourself a favor as an organization in the NFL and like give him defensive player of the year, because fuck it, he's like he deserves it. He deserves it.
Right.
A1, first of all, but also when you look back, it's just going to be cooler to be like, shit, he got defensive player of the year his rookie year. That's super cool. You know what I mean? It's like, he's been super fun to watch. And I like it, I'm very happy for Bobby that he has him, because he looks more like a bear, to be honest with you. And I'm mad.
I was going to say that when you said the Urlacher thing, right? Because he is kind of a quintessential bear style linebacker. I mean, Urlacher, Mack, Parsons, like all three of those guys are pretty much cut from the same mold. I mean, Urlacher was a little bit bigger than everybody of the other two guys.
Yeah, and Urlacher was kind of more of a cover two guy as well. Like, he didn't pressure.
Well, Parsons can do that too.
He can. That's the crazy thing. Both of them were really good at because of the sideline. It's like, I mean, I just remember Ryan Urlacher being able to strafe like incredibly quickly to the point where he was always, if he didn't make the tackle, he was always at the scene of the crime. And I think it reminds me a little bit of that. I think he's probably more athletic than Urlacher, but he You can't edge rush. You can't run around the edges as an offense coming up against this Cowboys team because of him, because he can hit. He can, even if he doesn't see which direction the play is going, he can get to the edge so fast that there's nowhere for you to go, So, and he completes his tackles. This is one of the biggest things I always say about a defense. Like, great, okay, you get a pick or two, cool, you score some points, cool. The most important thing for me as a defense is to complete your tackles. Don't fucking lose tackles. The Bears went from being one of the best tackling teams as far as like not failing to bring a guy down on the first tackle to recently, in the Matt Nagy era, being one of the worst 2 or 3. So, and it's so frustrating to watch as a player, because the Patriots have always been really good at this. They always complete their first tackle. It's like if you get to the guy, you got to bring him down. You have a guy like Micah Parsons on your team. He's always going to make the play. He's always going to make the tackle. You cannot, like, that's so rare in a defensive player because he's so fast. A lot of times guys that fast, they overrun their tackles. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But he's like, his stop and slow down and speed up speed is so crazy. And his awareness for a rookie is so crazy that it's going to be awesome to watch him. The only thing I can really hope is that like the Cowboys somehow go into insolvency and somebody else gets him. But otherwise, he's going to basically be a defensive stalwart in Dallas for the next 10 years.
Which is what they wanted Leighton Vander Esch to be. And he just...
Yeah, they're not on the same planet.
Like Sean Lee, they wanted him to be that. Leighton Vander Esch, they wanted him to be that. And they finally hit on Micah Parsons. And it's funny because last year we were like, oh, Mike McCarthy can't do this. He can't coach this team. And now this year, everybody's healthy. Everybody's buying in. And
I know, I hear what you're saying about Trayvon Diggs too, but like there was a few weeks there where he was making the case for being the best defensive player in the NFL.
Sure, no, absolutely.
His picks are crazy. He's slowed down a little bit because I think that's just because nobody wants to throw over there anymore because he's so good. So it's tough for defensive backs. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. Stephon Gilmore did it, but that's besides the point. So on to the Chiefs.
They got their mojo back.
They did.
I would be worried about them if I was anybody in the AFC.
Without Travis Kelce, they got their mojo back because Kelce was out due to COVID this week, and he couldn't clear protocols on Sunday morning, so they played without him, and they won anyway. and they look good. And I think Byron Pringle, number 13, a wide receiver, I think he's underrated, an underrated NFL player. I think he's really good at his position. I think he plays his role well.
They're just protecting fucking Mahomes a little bit better now too. Like,
they definitely
he was running for his life for a few weeks there, and like I think that there was, he can still make plays obviously because he's still Patrick Mahomes. I think a few scheme adjusts. I mean, Andy Reid's a good coach. I know everybody like jokes about how much he comes up short, but there's a handful of guys in the NFL where you can be pretty sure that when you have a team as talented as them, and they're obviously in a Super Bowl hangover, he can probably get them sorted out. And I think the problems were kind of there for all to see, offensive line wise, playmaking wise. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to get to the level that they were at this point last season because they were playing out of their fucking minds offensively. But yeah, I think they just got it sorted out. I think they have their mojo back. They're definitely the favorites in the AFC right now. And it'll be really boring to see a Packers Chiefs Super Bowl, but I mean, it's probably the most likely outcome at this point, unless I'm forgetting somebody.
Well, as far as the Chiefs, I mean, I think another thing when you said they're protecting Mahomes better, they blew up that entire offensive line and went out and basically signed like 4 new offensive linemen. I think either 60 or 80%.
I mean, the only way to go was up. The only way to go is up at that point.
And they're better, but. So when you talk about the Packers and Chiefs being the Super Bowl, you could make a case for the Cowboys getting there. I just don't think they.
I did make a case. It just happened.
I know you did, but I just don't think that they're mentally strong enough to finish. I think Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, Bruce Arians and Tom Brady are 2 more mentally tough combinations than McCarthy and Prescott. That you know what I mean? Like, I know it takes more than a coach and a quarterback to do it, right? But
it mostly takes a coach and a quarterback to do it.
But it mostly takes a coach and a quarterback. I think based on what we said about the Bucs, I think that, going back to, again, something else that Mike has said is that Aaron Rodgers can't get over that hump often either. He did it once, but he can't get over the hump. So who's to say it's not chasing Bucs again?
I think Mike's take is still very much in play, which is
absolutely without
Aaron
a doubt.
Rodgers chokes in the playoffs. Not chokes, but like he just can't get it done in the playoffs. I think that's very much in play. I also think if we're going to talk about the Packers, I just think there's 2 ways to look at it, right? There's the positive way to where you say, well, they always make the play to win the game. They make the play and they're winning the games. Or you say, why are they beating the Browns by 2 points if they're the best team in the NFL? You know what I mean? And I think that the jury's still out because you have all these intangibles, especially with Rodgers' track record in the playoffs, because, this isn't 2003 anymore. If it was 2003, what we'd be saying is, I mean, this guy's been to a Super Bowl before. He knows how to win one, but that's not the standard anymore, is it? If you're as good as everybody says Aaron Rodgers is, now that Tom Brady's won a fucking bajillion Super Bowls, he's changed the standard. The standard now is you only won one. And I think that's fair enough, to be honest with you, because a guy went out there and showed what greatness is. He set the bar different. The bar is just different now. Right. Even Peyton Manning won more than one. I understand he was just kind of on the bus for the last one, but he did it, and I think, and everybody was sort of saying like that sort of sealed greatness for him when he did that, because he needed those 2 rings as opposed to just one. Aaron Rodgers, I need him to retire with only 1 Super Bowl. Like I might Happy Gilmore him if he's about to throw the winning touchdown, just run him over with my car while he's on the field. If he gets
good luck,
because
love to see it.
I mean, listen, I don't move as quick as I used to be, but if all the heart is there, I need him to retire with just 1, because I can just post that forever.
Is this because you're a Bears fan?
Yes, of course it is.
Okay, I wanted to make sure. Yeah.
But do you think, I mean, honestly, if you look at it, if gun to your head right now, if you look at the Green Bay Packers, yes, they're making the plays to win the games, but they're not beating bad teams by as much as they should. They have weird moments in games, and Aaron Rodgers has that kind of playoff stank, like he doesn't get it done. He turns into a different guy a lot of the times in the postseason. Like there's reasons why that might not happen this year. I get it. He does look exceptional this year. He really does. And that team looks exceptional this year, especially after kind of a shaky start.
He did last year too, though. I mean, he was the MVP last year.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Would you, gun to your head, if you could bet on any team right now to win a Super Bowl, would you really put your money on the Packers? Like,
no, I'd put it on Tampa.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said for the safe bet like that, but my overall point being there's something about him. There's got to be there's something about him. Everyone's picking up on it. Everyone's always saying it, like there's something not quite right with that Packers team. And you made the point at the very start of the show, like they're very well-rounded. And I think that normally that would be the thing I would be looking for in a Super Bowl contender come week 16, week 17. Well-roundedness. I think that was a big part of the Bucs last season. Mm-hmm. I think like there was like no glaring weaknesses anywhere on the field. And yeah, they came up against a Chiefs team where you couldn't really point to any glaring weaknesses either. But that solidity, I think, is a big deal when it comes to postseason as well as momentum. And I think they do have both of those things. Shit, am I talking myself into the Packers being good? God damn it, Joe.
Well, no, you know what? I'll talk you out of it because I think the Packers have the same thing, something similar to what I think the Cowboys have. Okay, I think that the Packers have the same thing. I think there's too much. I don't even really know the word. There's too much. They're
kind of on a knife edge. They play on a knife edge. They play on a high.
Yeah, sure.
Both of them. And I'd love to see them. I don't know. I don't have the standings in front of me, so I'm not sure how that would work. Like, would they see each other in the NFC Championship game at this point because they're both division leaders? Yes. So if it's the NFC Championship game and they play each other, I'm taking the fucking Cowboys every single time. Like
Cowboys
no
over Packers, I would take the Cowboys
100%.
over Packers because I think they
100%.
crumble. And
they're the exact kind of team. They're the exact kind of team to make Aaron Rodgers fuck up the way that he fucks up in the playoffs.
Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers are too pretty. Can I use like?
Yeah, they're not grimy enough, but neither are the Cowboys.
Yeah. No, they're not. But the Cowboys just don't. I just don't think that Dak and McCarthy have.
They needed to go. They needed to go the way they needed to go. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But I think McCarthy beats Rodgers. I'm with you on that.
Right. See, that's the thing. Like, I feel like he knows, right? Like that. It's perfect. It's like, it's set up so perfectly. Like, I would love that. I would love that so much. I would love to have like backed the Cowboys, like been a supporter of them and like how their defense is playing, like supported them and been like, come on, man, you're doing great. I mean, there's been times obviously this season where I've just wanted to fuck with Bobby, but I really have genuinely.
Well, you realize we just put them in the Super Bowl, and that's all he's going to hear.
I bet them to win the Super Bowl. I think they're going to do it, and their odds are great right now. Their odds are unbelievable, and like the momentum thing for me. It's always the momentum thing for me going into the playoffs, and they just look like they've got it. They've got it all figured out. Like it's all coming together just at the right time, and it's just looking good. Of course, they'll probably lose in the first fucking round, knowing my gambling history and the Cowboys' playoff history, but. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a cool playoffs because at the end of the day, anything can happen. Because
like, you got to pay the mortgage somehow, so you got to hope that they win.
Yeah, no, I bet the whole mortgage. Don't tell Leah.
All right, we won't tell Leah. We won't tell her. But looking at the top 10, I think now that we're going into week 17, I think it's kind of we can take the playoffs can kind of take shape, and we can say, all right, the two best teams left in the AFC are the Chiefs and the Rams. Chiefs and the Bills. Sorry, I looked at the Rams and meant Bills. Chiefs and the Bills. But when you look at the NFC, the Packers, the Cowboys, the Bucs, like there's three teams right there. And even the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals are not a bad football team. They're a good football team, but I just don't think that they've reached Aaron Rodgers, Cowboys as a whole.
Yeah, they have some consistency issues. I think they're going to be tough for them in the playoffs.
And they could eventually be that team. So we're going to find out in a few years because Cliff Kingsbury and Kyle Murray.
Oh yeah, sky's the limit for him. Sky's the limit for him going forward.
Those guys aren't going anywhere. But yeah. I think you said Packers Chiefs, and I'm not going to make a Super Bowl prediction right now, and I know you didn't either. But Packers Chiefs looks likely. I mean, you kind of talked me into the Cowboys, but I'm going to still go Bucs Chiefs. I just think that's. We said it last year that these are kind of the two teams that right now are just leading the charge. And I think they'll continue to do that as we go into the playoffs. And maybe I'm wrong. And maybe a team like the Bengals or the Bills or the Patriots or even the Colts jump on somebody. And maybe the Colts go all the way and win it with Jonathan Taylor and we can shove it down Mike's throat that a team led by a running back won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I doubt it, but I do think
probably not. It won't happen.
I do think the Colts have a bright future. I think
they do.
The Cards have a bright future. The Titans still have a bright future. I don't know about the Ravens, dude. To be honest with you, I feel like Lamar is not that dude. I think it's official. I think he's a great athlete. I think he's a great football player. Is he a great quarterback? I know it's a boring take and everybody has it, but I don't know. I don't see it.
They're a weird team this year. And they've had injury.
Well, Lamar's
issues,
fucking out
COVID
like every other
issues.
game because he gets COVID twice a day.
I know.
It's like insane.
And you know what? He is a good athlete, and his throwing has gotten better. You know, we said it about the Steelers, like something's off with that team. I think something's off with the Ravens, and I think it probably starts at the head coach. But again, you know, I look at it now, and a lot of times when we talk about head coaches, because you have the hot seat head coaches, you have the Urban Meyers, you have the Dave Culleys, you have, you know,
Matt Nagy.
Matt Nagy, yeah, who's definitely on a hot seat. Like, I don't even think Dan Campbell's on the hot seat. Yeah, I don't even think Dan Campbell's on the hot seat in Detroit. I think the way that the owner of the Lions hugged him after that win over the Vikings, he's there for at least another year. But you look at some of these coaches, and it's so funny because all the time you say, well, if they get rid of Nagy, well, who's going to come in and be the head coach? If they get rid of Belichick, who's going to come in and be the next head coach? Well, just in the top 10 right here of Bobby's rankings, LaFleur is it's third-year head coach. You have Sean McVay in LA, who's in his fourth year. So, I mean, the Bengals, Zach Taylor, who's in his second season, I mean, Frank Reich's a little bit older, but then you have Cliff Kingsbury with the Cardinals. My point being is that you do have these young coaches that are now emerging and changing the game a little bit and being pretty good in their first few years. So I think that coaching changes in Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and definitely Chicago need to come sooner rather than later.
Yeah. All right. That was good. I do feel like we should talk about the fact that John Madden's dead for a couple minutes.
I think so too.
That's super sad. My question, I guess, in that context is, who at Wikipedia updates the deaths so quickly? Because I heard the news and I looked on the internet for some like John Madden facts, you know, to be like, oh yeah, like let me give it a little refresher course, and it already said was.
Is it all community? Is it all community edited, or is there people at Wikipedia?
There's got to be one morbid fuck who just sits there and waits for death and changes the tense of is to was, and it's you know, they know what they're doing over there. They know. I can only hope that I can only hope the internet kills me as quickly as I die. But
sometimes they kill people before they die, so let's not.
Yeah, you know what? All I request is like the second you guys hear that I'm dead, go on the Missing the Point website and just change it to was. That's all I want. No, it's super sad that John Madden's dead. Obviously, he was a big part of all of our childhoods, and you know, if you're into Tenactin, he's probably a big thing for you too. But he was, you know, the game, the commentary. He was great in the replacements. He kind of is football in a lot of ways. Like he, you know, I wasn't alive when he was like the coach of the Raiders. I was alive when he was the voice of the sport when I was getting into the sport. And like him and Al Michaels will always remain the best football commentary duo to me. Yeah, towards the end, he definitely started saying some weird shit, and they maybe left him on the air for a little longer than they should have. But when you're a guy who with a prestigious and storied career as long and as big as John Madden's, maybe you get that luxury. So I'm sad that he's dead. It's a bummer. It marks all of our ages and the ever fucking nonstop passing of time, and I'm sad about it. So I know his wife and his kids are still alive, so you know, sorry to those guys. It's a bummer that John Madden's dead for sure. I'm gonna play a Madden season after we get off this call, so you know, it's commemoration.
I think you should with the Raiders too.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I would say fire John Gruden, but he did that to himself already. Yeah, it's so interesting because from like a business standpoint for him and like as a fan for ESPN, when him and Al Michaels left, there's never been a crew. So they've been looking for a crew to take over for those guys since they left, and nobody can do it. Nobody can be up to that level. And I think they just had that old school sound and that old school style. And, you know, you're right. We grew up with it, and that was the coolest thing. And besides the video game, which I basically owned every single one from like 1999 up until probably 2014, 16. And it was a great legacy and a great life, and it was pretty cool. And you're right. I mean, when you think of football, you think of John Madden. If you of course you think of Lambeau and the Packers, and you think of John Madden. I'm sorry you don't, because you're a Bears fan. You think of Brian Urlacher and Sugar Plums, but John Madden was like you said, he said some of the craziest stuff, and if you score more points than the other team, you're going to win. And as a Patriots fan, one of the most iconic things he ever said was that Tom Brady should kneel the ball and they should go to overtime against the Rams in Super Bowl 36. And without hearing it or knowing it, the Patriots drove down the field and won the game in regulation. And it was just a iconic moment. And nobody hates him for it. Nobody bashed him for it, because the guy was lovable and he was great at what he did. He was a great coach and a great ambassador for the game of football. And it's probably something the game will need again, but won't have for a very long time. So yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, and shout out Pat Summerall too. I forgot about him. I forgot he was like his main partner. Also, I just remember the Al Michaels days, but yeah, they were a great team. And I think also, we come from the reason we all met is because we all like did radio broadcasting together. So I think maybe more than a lot of people, we have respect for the broadcaster guys. And a lot of times, career journalists or career broadcasters will come in and they'll get paired up with the former football guys and like the Tony Romas of the world. And you're like, yeah, okay. Like, a lot about the sport, but dick all about broadcasting. And I think that one thing I will give John Madden a lot of credit for is that he took to it better than most people. And he was just a really good personality, his pace, his voice, and his ability, I think, second to none to talk about stuff when nothing was happening in the game. I think he was just like an interesting dude in that way. And he just had like things to say in that way. And one of the best parts of the replacements, like I said. So, Craig, you got any John Madden thoughts? Childhood John Madden thoughts?
I didn't know he retired at 43 from coaching. That really surprised me.
For a second, I thought you meant from broadcasting. I was like, he looked terrible.
I just figured he was around a lot longer than that as a coach, because I remember on the sideline was the Raiders, he looked like his 50s and 60s, but no, 43.
Yeah,
he was. It's like Willie Nelson. He just always looked old, but
that's what 43 looked like in the 80s.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt.
I got
like
10 years
now.
until I'm there. I hope I don't look that bad in 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what happens when you're in Oakland for that long, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. I think he wasn't in LA for.
I mean, he fucking lived to 85 though. Jesus,
85.
I wouldn't have pegged him getting to 85. He didn't look great when he retired, but like, good for him.
He never flew. Fun fact: the Madden bus was actually.
Oh, that's right. He never went to the Pro Bowls in Hawaii.
Yeah, he would drive.
He would never get on a plane.
He wouldn't get on a plane. And you know what? I don't really blame him.
Why? It's like the safest way to travel.
I know. I like to see things though, and boom.
Tough acting tonight.
Tough acting tonight. I was watching the replacements the other night, and I told you guys because I texted it because Nigel Gruff hit a 65-yard field goal in the movie, and nobody ever talks about that part. And I was like, wait a minute, Nigel Gruff had the longest field goal until 2021 in the NFL.
No, that's a bonkers field goal. That's a bonkers field goal for sure. But like John Madden would say, like, why are you in a position to have to take a 65-year-old field goal in the first place, man? You got to get yourself some yards. I remember a really specific soundbite in one of the Maddens. It was like probably 06, which is the one I played the most. It was like, he was like, well, I don't know why you're going forward on fourth down, because the other three downs told you can't get enough yards. I was just like stuck in my head because I'm like, it's not a bad point. If you're going forward on fourth down, you already proved you suck at getting yards. So there it is. All right. Well, thanks for that, Joe. That was a fun show. Glad the NFL season's still drunk. Gives us a lot to talk about. Thanks to Bobby for making the power rankings to guide us through this wonderful journey of talking about sports, which is kind of the whole thing that we do here, but also get vaccinated. And because
spay and neuter your pets, get vaccinated, wear your seatbelts, and listen to your point, and brush your teeth at least twice a day. But I also like to sometimes do it after lunch because stuff gets stuck up there. Absolutely. This is all really good advice, and I'm really glad that we're changing the world. Rest in peace, John Madden. Thanks for listening.